Sullivan, Ranking Member Hirono, Senator Kane, thanks for the opportunity to appear this morning. I'm honored to represent the Marine Corps and discuss our current warfighting readiness. Since my testimony last year, your Marine Corps has continued to progress and refine our force design implementation through a campaign of learning. We're modernizing our force to meet the challenges of the modern battlefield. As directed by our Commandant, we've balanced that modernization with our ability to respond to crises. This balance ensures that over 32,000 Marines, forward postured and deployed, are trained and ready to support the combatant commander's competition campaign, deter global threats, and when necessary, fight our nation's battles. Whether acting as the forward eyes and ears in the Southwest Islands, or expanding maritime domain awareness in a unified High North and across the Baltic Sea, or supporting the defense support of civil authorities by constructing obstacles and intel analysis on the southern border, your Marines are ready to operate in any climate and place, as our song says. There remain external challenges, though, to our warfighting readiness. The most acute readiness detractors are the lack of amphibious ship availability, which has been brought up already by my shipmate, and the absence of organic littoral mobility to marry up with our MLR capabilities. The gap in these capabilities creates significant risk and degrade force readiness across the competition spectrum toward conflict. Yet despite these challenges, your Marine Corps remains ready. Our personnel, our maintenance, supply and training readiness remain high, just as all of you would expect. In both recruiting and retention, the Marine Corps made mission and exceeded expectations in fiscal year 2024. And you heard it here first. We will make our numbers this year, and in fact, we'll be able to push contracts on the order of 1,000 into the next fiscal year. I remain completely humbled by the quality of our recruits and the Marines we make fleet-wide. Cannot say enough about the excellence and discipline of our recruiting force, who continue to do what others say is not possible, making mission without lowering standards, which is something we will never do. That discipline, together with consistent funding, remain key ingredients for a high state of readiness. Our unprecedented second unmodified audit opinion is evidence of that discipline. Our books are clean, our books are open. The Marine Corps is appreciative of the continued support from Congress and support for the Commandant's priorities, which are creating an enduring total force readiness. With your advocacy, we'll sustain our current and future force readiness to maintain the honor of being the first to fight when called. With your support for additional resources, we'll restore the state of our infrastructure readiness in a manner consistent with your expectations, as well as the expectations of our Commandant. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to your questions. Semper Fidelis.
Make sure we're learning across services on that, because I don't think it got enough press, but if you have an all-volunteer force and we're hitting a recruiting crisis of tens of thousands of Americans who we were short, that's an existential threat to our military. Fortunately, it looks like we're beyond that, but we need to embed the lessons learned from all the services on how we got out of that danger zone. So, General, to you on those three questions.
Senator, as far as the CR, we've canvassed pretty much all the negative things. I'd just like to hammer down on one. We talked about anomalies and flexibility in order to move between appropriations or accounts. We also need to be mindful of what the top line is. If there is only so much top line from which to flex or to move, we're going to rob from one account to pay for another. Examples might be inflation that outpaces the plus up, pay raises that were not planned for or budgeted but are must-pay bills. That money will come from somewhere. And non-budgeted contingencies that we pay out of our own primarily O&M accounts will have to be accounted for somewhere in the rules of that continuing resolution. A knock-on effect specific to the Marine Corps is if, and it's already been touched on by Admiral Kilby, if ship maintenance or shipbuilding or procurement or anything that touches amphibious shipping, it will have a knock-on effect to the Marine Corps, as I spoke about with Senator Hirono earlier. As far as flexibility goes, I would reference the Lord Hale study on PPB reform, and I'll just bring up three things that come to mind immediately. I think they have 16 recommendations in there, which are all really good. Multi-year availability of one-year accounts so that you are not forced into making bad decisions at the end of the year and buying things that you really don't need, but have a period of availability to where you can make better executive and managerial decisions against that appropriation. Greater transfer authority so that we can move between appropriations or move between sub-activity groups in order to solve a problem early so that we don't have to come to Congress for an above-threshold massive reprogramming late in the year that may be late to need or not solve the problem. And lastly, and I'll let it go, is multi-year colorless appropriations, to have flexibility within a portfolio to strengthen where you're weak and move money around to make sure that you can get your objectives attained within an account. So multi-year availability, greater transfer authority, and multi-year colorless appropriation. And we did the last one, and if you think of MRAP and you think of JADO back in the day, that worked pretty well to get things done at an accelerated pace. I'm running on here, but recruiting. For us, three things. We have a brand that we will not back off from. We believe that that brand is attractive. We believe it is a magnet to a wide demographic of young Americans who will prove themselves physically, mentally, and morally qualified. We will not back off of the standard, and counterintuitively, you maintain a standard at a high level, that attracts people who want to perform to that standard.
That's a great lesson, and I think we have to always keep that in mind. All the services, no matter what our recruiting challenges are, it is counterintuitive, but it works. So thank you for that.
And lastly, Senator, I already talked about it in detail, and that is our recruiting force.
Yeah.
A breed apart, who are hand-screened, selected, incentivized, promoted. And as I said, when they get back in the fleet, as you know, they are some of the best staff NCOs and officers we have, and they become Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps and Commandant in the Marine Corps. We lose about 7 to 10% of our civilian workforce just through natural attrition each year, so we have to figure out a way to replenish that, or the number will just keep going down.
Well, hundreds of thousands of federal employees are being fired. These firings are not based on any kind of a job performance evaluation. So it's going to happen to the DOD, I would say. And so anybody else wants to weigh in?
I'll just connect to our last exchange, ranking member. The shipyards are exempt from the probationary employees, and they're exempt from the hiring freeze. So we are trying to shape this in a manner that allows us to continue the most important work as we work through guidance from the administration. Also exempted from the hiring freeze is the Military Sea Lift Command, an important force for us to maintain our fleet. So I think those are efforts on the services part to manage this.
Basically, all three of you are needing to identify some very critical people that you want to make sure that these firings do not hit. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.